Shout echoes heavy, sharp as a fight. Alan steady with the facts, sharp and true. Fuji's fire breaks the calm, splits it in two. Pattison Ave, where the wild hearts run. Talking sports, games, battles, lost and won. Voices rise, break chains, ignite the flame. Fanatic thunder echoing the name.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Pattison Ave Phanatics Show. I'm your host, Tom Kelly. With me, as always, my compadres, Mike Fuji.
What's up? How's everybody doing tonight? Let's get this party started, rocking, whatever you want to think. Let's fire
Big Al.
What's up, Big Al?
What's up? What's up, guys? How are you, man? Great Monday. Wish someone to come out, but hey, it's all good. Let's talk some sports, and let's find it. Let's figure this out.
Before we get into the sports topics of the day, I'd like to plug our Small Business Saturday show. Norm and I every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. release another episode of our Small Business Saturday show where we pick a small business, it could be from around the corner or around the globe, and we spotlight them, find out what they're about, how long they've been doing what they're doing, their products, and kind of just get an inside view at some of these small businesses out there. So check us out every Saturday morning on the Cole County Entertainment YouTube and Facebook pages at 10 a.m. It is our Small Business Saturday show. So last week was a good show. I didn't get a chance to get into all the Eagle stuff that I wanted to get into, but before we kind of dig into the Eagles draft, because I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff on the Eagles draft.
I wanted to mention, just a moment of silence for Flyers, two-time Stanley Cup champion Ed Van Halen passed away earlier today.
A poor little green tea out for Ed Van Halen.
I'm trying to be serious.
Oh shit!
Nah, but
or being serious, you pour one out for your homie.
Just to shout out to his family and Flyers.
Absolutely, 110%. I wasn't around for those Flyers 70s, those 74, 75 Flyers teams.
I was 2 and 3 years old.
Right. So essentially, you were around, but you didn't get a chance to watch it. But my mother and father have Flyers are one of the biggest things in my house growing up, sports wise. When they moved out of South Philly out to Chester County, one of their spare bedrooms, they literally turned it into a Flyers room with Flyers bedspreads and curtains and all stuff on the wall. So hearing about Ed Van Amp or Bernie Perron or Bob Kelly.
If you go back to the 70s, that's really what started all the with the parades. The Flyers winning back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think they really had any big parades like when the Eagles won their NFL titles. I don't know if they had one with the Sixers back in the day.
Well, the Sixers would have been what, 83?
Yeah, no, but I'm going back to when they had Wilt and Hal Greer and all those.
Even then, they didn't win the big one with Wilt and them.
No.
Our major championships for our teams are 48, 49, 60, 74, 75, 83, 08.
83 Sixers.
Yeah, 83 Sixers. Did they win 2 titles?
Oh, wait. I'm thinking of Wilt with the Warriors.
It could have been.
Yeah, but I thought the Sixers. Anyway, anybody can.
I can look that up, but you're going to get this for the next 4 minutes while I'm trying to look it up. So
we kind of scored 100 points as a Sixer, correct?
Yeah, Hershey.
Wilt Chamberlain was not a Sixer, I believe, when he scored that 100-point. He was a Philadelphia Warrior. Out in Hershey, yeah.
When he sold the 100.
Yep.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of controversy, like, oh, there was no video cameras, nobody saw it, it's not real.
There wasn't, and the people that were there. If you ever listen on Sunday mornings, Sonny Hill knew Wilt Chamberlain. Yes, the living.
Yeah, they're all Monroe on yesterday.
First off, shout out to the living room. What a phenomenal, welcome into the living room with Sonny Hill. I mean, one of the greatest shows on WIP, and he's been doing it for years. And Sonny Hill, God, what's he in his mid-80s?
Yeah,
gotta be.
The guy's pumping out content. Now, you guys have done this show now for a while, and have jumped on other shows. And I mean, Foods, you've been on all kinds of shows. Yeah. You know how hard it is to create content. It's not easy. It's not easy. A lot of people are like, well, you just get up there, and if you can run your mouth, which I'm good at doing, you can talk for an hour, and it's no big deal. And it's, in theory, that's correct. But in the dog days of summer, where you only have one sport going on. Now, Sonny Hill knows his baseball too, but I'm just using him as an example. For anyone that's looking to get into this field, we had young Vaughn on last week, who did phenomenal, by the way, because it is nerve-wracking.
He was a great kid. He's a good kid.
Looking up at the thing
himself, but he's good.
Looking up at the thing, you got 6 viewers there, right? So you're thinking like, what 6 people are watching me when I'm talking, and do I look like a goof? Now, back to a guy like Sonny Hill, to be in your mid-80s and create content, like I guess that's the new way you say doing a radio show nowadays. Everything's about creating content and be relevant and poignant and so articulate. You got to take your hats off to him. And if you haven't, anybody out there who hasn't listened, you can go on Odyssey. I go on Odyssey and go on a 94.1 WIP
it's a great
Sunday mornings. Yeah. Sunday mornings in the living room from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. with Sonny Hill. And I highly, highly recommend it. I just gave Sonny Hill like the greatest plug of his life, and he's never going to know it.
That would be a phenomenal guest to get on.
Are you kidding me? And the way he speaks to people, it goes to upbringing. When you call someone sir or ma'am or with that level of respect, that's upbringing. I know we're kind of
but when callers call in, I mean, he goes, I just love the nostalgic era of it all, because somebody will, like you said, he'll talk baseball, and like I said, he had all the Pearl Monroe on yesterday.
Which is, I mean, come on, a legend. That's and the best thing
that
is
was basketball.
He's had Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe and done interviews with them, and I mean, this guy is not rattled at all by these big people, and it's really a testament to somebody who's good at this. Like, look, what we're doing right now has been my dream since I was.
Same here.
I knew I wasn't going to be a professional athlete when I was growing up. I wanted to be involved in sports broadcasting, sports media for years.
Ever since I've known you, and I've known you a long ass time.
You get into the workforce at 9, 10, 11 years old, like, newspapers and doing different jobs like that. But sports talk radio was a part of it. And to be able to listen to a show and then to get, dissect the show and listen to the great ones do it. Like a guy, Fuji was on. Fuji, what was the name of the show again? It's Escape of the Old School Show. Is that what it was?
Yeah, well, Joe Sullivan, Sean Kilrain, and myself.
Right, and I want to make sure I plug it properly. Well, they had a legend, Angelo Cataldi, on this past week, beautiful. And Wednesday. So I'll use Angelo Cataldi
and Mark
and Farsi was on our show earlier. Was it earlier in the year?
Yeah, Farsi was awesome. I love Farsi.
Yeah, I know. And But Angelo Cataldi is a prime example. Is a guy who had a 6 a.m. show and would be there at 2 a.m. every day, and he'd have interns pulling video clips and. I mean, his notes, to quote Jeff Lurie, he had voluminous notes. And to watch how that's how a show is put together. And each person on that show had a role. You can only aspire to have something even remotely close to that.
Well, didn't Angelo have Jeffrey Lurie on like 30 years ago, 31 years ago? And then he hadn't been on 94.1 for like 30 some years. But he came on today for the BG day, the Brandon Graham day that they were doing the 5-5, Cinco de Mayo, Cinco de Gramo. You know, as they were calling it.
Now I'm out of the loop. So unless I'm driving up here, I'm not listening to WIP anymore, which sucks because I really love listening to WIP.
But they had a whole BG day today for 5-5, and they had Jeffrey Lurie was on. I think it was the first time since he bought the team actually being on there. So
Ray Didinger, I believe, was up there with him.
Yeah, Ray was on. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah,
we digress.
Not to cut anybody off, the show is called The Legacy of Buddy Ryan, which just to touch on it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, Sean, and myself are going to be doing this every so often. I think the next show we're going to try to do is the 80s Flyers, when they had that run against Edmonton.
Pelle Lindbergh, all those some of those great Flyers from the 80s. The old school show, and Pat Bernard, good friend of mine, Pat Bernard, who's on a lot of network. Joe Sullivan, Pat's dad. I think that was the original concept for the old school show, and I mean they're great. It's a great show idea, and if anybody were to ask a certain host of a certain show, I would love to jump on one of those shows because I think that's phenomenal to be able to jump in and talk stuff when you were a kid. It's fun. It's fun to talk sports now. Watch the gleam in a guy's eye when he starts talking about Mike Schmidt or Randall Cunningham or these guys that you watched when you were a kid growing up.
Yeah.
Let me throw this to you because I know you have that old school black Eric Lindros jersey. And you remember playing in your neighborhood, and you would be let's just say street hockey. You would have like your favorite Flyers player on, like Rick Tockett's my all-time Flyer. Everybody would have their like favorite player's jersey on.
Absolutely.
The street. Like how amazing was that?
I had a John LeClair practice jersey that I would wear a lot of times to play. I just recently posted a picture on Facebook. I don't know if you guys caught it, but it was me in my Eric Lindros jersey when I was just a little bit more svelte than I am right now and a smidge more athletic than I am right now. That kid would have skated circles around me. But I grew up, I mean, when we say 4 for 4, growing up, and we've talked about this before, growing up in my neighborhood playing street hockey, my best friend growing up taught me how to play hockey. I remember trying to skate my first time out there and falling in front of a group of people. And I remember getting up and falling again and getting up and saying, in 2 weeks, I'll be skating backwards down the street. And they all laughed at me. And all I did for the next 2 weeks was skate. And I was able to skate all the way down their street backwards. And I had to be pretty decent of a street hockey player. We won 2 years in a row, hockey intramurals. Sorry, Kenny McKinney out there from the class of 98. My junior year, his senior year, his team was stacked. They were supposed to win the intramurals championship. Didn't happen. Yours truly and our team went. I had a 2-goal, 1-assist game that game.
My guy.
Not gonna toot my own.
Was that a
My God.
That was at St. John Newman, yes, sir. I was a Newman Pirate before it became the Saints.
Okay.
I remember asking my mom, because my mom went to Goretti, my dad went to Newman, and now both of those schools merged after I graduated, and they're Newman Goretti. Right. And I said, well, then the guys used to call the girls Goretti Gorillas. And I said, Mom, if Goretti's Gorillas, what do they call the Newman guys? And she said, assholes. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. It's highly accurate. Highly accurate. But
I love it so much. That's amazing.
I remember.
Your mom is the best.
Mama Kelly pulls no punches. Neither does my grandmother, who I just recently seen. My grandma, God bless her, she's 91. She's still out there. Putting in work.
Go for her, man.
But
watch it, man. She'll give you that right hook and boom.
I don't want no trouble, dude. I don't want no trouble at all. But to get back to it, in the 80s and 90s, like the 70s and 80s and 90s, I feel for street sports was probably the best time of growing up. Stickball when you were a kid, and I mean, Fuge, you grew up in the city. You know what it's about. Half ball, stick ball. I don't know. I don't know how they did it where you grew up, Big Al.
Oh man, dude, yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
But if you guys like stick ball, anybody,
we play tackle football in the street, like
concrete.
We did it all. We
did all that. That's why I get out of bed. That's why when I get out of bed in the morning, I'm
absolutely.
like,
yeah, absolutely. That's why in 10 years I'm gonna need a new hip.
10 years. I need one now.
This is definitely a show for another time, a nostalgic show.
100%. I would like to do that.
Yep.
I absolutely feel that the nostalgia show would be great, but they're doing great things over there at Stream Punk and over at Out of the Box, because I know that he's affiliated with Paul Spencer, owner of Out of the Box Sports Network. Those guys do awesome job over there. Really, really built that thing up from just a dream in his head to what it is today. But let's get into some 76ers. I think it's it's off season time. Things are kind of slow.
Who are you getting in?
Well, your Philadelphia 76ers.
Your home, your team, your town, your
tears.
Let's start off by saying thank you for the city not allowing them to move to Chinatown or where the hell they were going to move downtown.
So let's
thank God that didn't happen. Thank God that did not happen.
Let's start with that. Just logistically, if you were to put an arena or a stadium, what have you, at what was it, 10th and Market?
Yes.
Is that where they wanted to do it?
Right by the Hard Rock. Yeah, 10th, 12th.
Yeah. Right, the Hard Rock.
Yeah, 10th and Market.
Now, I understand some of the concept. Okay, now if you were putting it in that area, you'll have access to the subway and the trolleys that the trolleys that would come in underneath like the gallery.
Right.
We don't call it Fuji, and I don't call it the Fashion District. We call it the Gallery.
Yeah. It's always been the Gallery. Yep. Gallery and Market East. Yep.
I remember when I guess we'll remain nostalgic. When I was a kid, and I would have to go to a doctor's appointment in town, and my mom would take us to the Gallery afterwards. Just what it was. Fashion District crap.
Gallery kicked ass, man.
It was awesome,
dude. I used to walk down on K&A. Down on the hill.
What were you doing down there?
Years ago. My uncle lived in there before it became what the fuck it is now. Used to be able to walk down underneath the L. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful down there. And now it's, the crackhead haven or whatever, whatever you want to call it.
Wow.
So real quick before I continue in this, you had mentioned about what jerseys you have. So my favorite Philadelphia Flyer was actually my favorite hockey player of all time, and then he came to the Flyers. He was my favorite hockey player long before he was on the Philadelphia Flyers. He played for the Chicago Blackhawks for many years.
Rod Brindamore?
No, Rod
Jeremy
Brindamore did not
Roenick.
play for the. Yes,
No?
sir. Jeremy
Number
Roenick.
97.
Oh, Roenick. Okay.
He was 26. He was 27
Seven. Yeah.
on Chicago, but he was 97 when he came to the Flyers. And I remember, and I swear to God, this is all tying in together. I remember being in the gallery, going to the Models in the gallery, and I seen a 2X Jeremy Roenick jersey. And I said, I don't care how much that costs. That's mine. And it's still somewhere, I think, in my parents' closet, mixed in with all the other Flyers jerseys that we have.
There you go.
But Jeremy Roenick was my absolute favorite all-time hockey player. And a lot of that had to do with NHL 94 and NHL 95.
Yeah. Dude, Roenick was a badass. He was. He was a straight badass.
I remember reading the back of the Philly Daily News, and it said, "Who got JR?"
Yeah.
On the back of it.
Yeah, instead of who shot JR, from Dallas, right?
JR.
Yes, exactly. But so the Philadelphia 76ers talking about putting a stadium in the middle of town. And there was part of me that understood,
Stupid.
all right, the underground access, but that is a logistical nightmare. You literally have a complex where it's created just for that. Why on earth would you try to move that stadium away from the stadium complex?
Yep. It would have been, Tom, it would have been completely ridiculous and reckless had they done it.
And you and I can.
It would have destroyed. I know they said, "Oh, it's going to bring." I think it would have hurt that area, putting in a sports complex down there. So I'm so glad that they decided against.
You and I are able to look at that from a delivery guy's point of view as well,
right?
And that plays a lot in it. I worked at FedEx for many years, and you've worked there a year and a half before I did. Now you've been at UPS ever since.
Yep.
And you can just look at it from a delivery standpoint. It's going to be impossible to get around down there. It already is.
Yes. It's already hard enough to move anywhere down the city, and then you're going to throw a sports complex where they play how many home games? I mean, they play 41 home games. So so people are going to drive down. You're going to have on-street parking, like no parking, they would have had to. They would have had to build one or two auxiliary garages, but it wouldn't have made a difference. It would have been for season ticket holders, and it'd be completely ridiculous and in my opinion reckless. It had the city done it, so I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they chose not to.
I worked in Center City 26 years this month, and I'm up by 15th and Market, and it's just, they built that area up pretty nice over the last 10 years. And why would you just throw it down in the middle? I remember back in, the early 2000s, the Phillies were trying to get right down there too, around Chinatown, and the city shot it down. Exactly like in the same vicinities for the Sixers.
Now, aren't we one of the only cities or cities, towns, whatever the hell you want to call it, that have all
a
the
sports complex
or major sports
right together?
Yeah,
we're one of the only cities that have that. Right. Why would you want to break that up? I know. Go ahead, Stu.
Why didn't they? No, you're good. Why didn't they just put it down the Navy Yard? You got all that.
I mean, there's an abundance of land down there. One of my last FedEx routes was down there. I know there's an abundance of land down there. It's right across 95 from the sports complex. Anyway, there was talk about. I often wondered. They turned FDR Park into more of a. When COVID hit and the flower show came in there, the lakes. I mean, that's we call it the lakes. If you're from, I'm from
And the other part of South.
You better measure your next words very carefully, my friend, or it might get heated up in here. Now I am
Montgomery County boys just sitting out watching the fire.
I am a current St. Clair resident in Schuylkill County, former Delaware County, where they poop on hoods of cars. But I'll tell you right now, I was born and raised. It was in Prospect Park. It was like 4 blocks from where my kids live.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I was born and raised on the mean streets of Grace Ferry, and those. I'll tell you what, you learn. I went. If you go on my Facebook profile, I graduated from the University of Grace Ferry. All right, so
that's why I'm busting your stones.
as he should. But down FDR Park, where the lakes is, as we call from South Philly. I say FDR Park so that people know what I'm talking about. They'll be like, what lakes? But I often thought they might take a chunk of that and open a stadium over there. I mean, it's right on the other side of Broad Street.
True.
Right there. But they could.
But that's city owned. It's city owned property, so
that's a nice park.
Everything's city owned down there, isn't it? Yeah. No matter where they would want to go and move the stadium to, it's pretty much all city owned, ain't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
I remember. It was a summer day. Coming from Grace Ferry, my dad and I took the little ride over to the lakes because there used to be a golf course in there, and it was FDR golf course.
They have a private one next door too. Was that the one you're referring to?
No, FDR. Yeah, there was no private ones down there. It was just FDR was a public golf course. No, there's no golf course down there now.
There was.
No, they did something else in there. There was. Yeah, I mean, like, so I went to St. John Newman High School, and in high school I was all state in golf. I was all Catholic, and then I was all state in Newman golf many moons ago. And I learned. I came up on that golf course. I mean, I was on there. All I had to do was show my high school ID, and I could golf from after school until it got dark. My grandfather would drop me off after school, and my dad would pick me up. He'd come after work, and we'd hit 18. But I remember one day there's a Phil's game. It's a summertime, and my dad and I take a ride over to FDR down the lakes, and we go to the gate, and a guy tries to charge my dad to park. My dad goes, typical South Philly guy. My dad goes, "Oh, we're not watching the Phils today, bud. My son and I are going golfing." And the guy goes, "No, you're not. That's what everybody says when they come in here." My dad goes, "What?" Jumps out of the car. The dude trips, falls backwards. He flings the hood open, the trunk open. He's like, "Look in there." He's like, "Don't move the goddamn barrier before I move it for you." Oh man, just scared the shit out of this guy. And I just remember as we're driving away, like, pointing at him and laughing.
But Kelly,
when I got older, we would go down the lakes and go down to the driving range and fill duffel bags full of golf balls on the driving range. Banged up, bars closed, and then we would pull in, put our headlights on, and just hit rockets out into nowhere. So again, I'm going down memory lane here, Fuge. I get stuck in there. But yeah, so I think we can all be in agreement that putting an arena at 10th and Market is not a very bright decision. And I'm glad they didn't go over to Camden either. I'll be honest with you, I would rather have it at 10th and Market than to go over to Camden. Just because I don't want to be like these New York fans where they play in the Meadowlands.
Yep.
So it's not technically New York, it's East Rutherford, New Jersey. That's terrible.
Yes.
If you recall, back in '94, they were Sixers were. I guess Cats was going to move them over to Camden.
They wanted to. Yeah. But dude, like, okay. All right. So let's get on the NBA. The NBA in everything, until you get to the playoffs, is a horrible product. It's horrible.
I'm glad you brought this up.
You know what I mean? Nobody does anything until the postseason. Once you get to the playoffs, then you get actual competitive basketball, and it's so frustrating and demeaning to the sport itself that these guys don't play every single day. Okay, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant, they played every day. They played through injuries. They iced themselves up. They did all this stuff. This rest management. It's just a bad look for the sport, in my opinion. It's just to me, it's downgraded the NBA.
I completely agree. And nowadays, you might get 1 out of every 10 games where you're seeing an effort-filled game.
Exactly.
The closer you get to playoffs, the more when seeding is involved, you get that extra effort. But load management is a word that, or a phrase, I should say.
Yep. And they love to
makes guys like us cringe, because the people that we watched growing up and our fathers, when work, guys don't. There's no load management. You don't get a Tuesday off because you had a rough Monday. It's not how it worked. It's not how it should work in professional sports. You guys literally
they're getting paid millions of dollars. Pay me millions of dollars. I'll go outperform whoever wants to sit out right now. I'll give me your paycheck.
I'm trash.
Go kill myself to earn that paycheck.
Well,
I'm gonna go kill myself to earn that paycheck. I will spend 24 hours a day in the gym, perfecting my craft that you're paying me to do. It's ridiculous.
To play a kid's game.
Ridiculous.
Play a kid's game, no matter what sport it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And
you're getting paid millions of dollars to do it. So just it's your profession. Perfect your profession. Work on it every single day, like we do as normal people working in our jobs every single day. We work and we figure out different ways to make our lives easier and this, that, and the other thing. It doesn't change that you're a professional basketball player and you just don't feel like putting in the work. Well, screw you then. I don't want to put in the work watching you and following you.
Are we rolling this into a Joel Embiid conversation? Because I can feel it coming.
Yeah,
I can feel it coming.
He's a bum. He's always been a bum. He will always be a bum.
Hold on, Fuge. You were about to say something. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I was going to say the blue collar guys back in the day, they had full-time jobs. They weren't getting paid.
Yeah.
Well, back then, those guys should get the money they got today.
Yeah.
People think Chuck Bednarik, Concrete Charlie, thought he got his nickname because he was tough. The guy literally worked in concrete in the off season and then built a business that after football he ran.
Yes.
That's guys like
how
that.
He got a name.
Yeah.
Not to mention he played every minute of every snap and fucking suffered all the shit.
So now, Alan, prepare yourself for evisceration. Now, please, let's get back to this topic where Joel Embiid is a bum.
He's a bum. He's always been a bum. Will always be a bum.
State your case.
He's got no hustle. He's got no heart. He's got. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've never been a fan of Joel Embiid. Never been.
Go ahead, Fuj.
I wouldn't say he's a bum. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal talent, but like you said, he's the 10 man. He don't have the heart. I mean, the thing, I know I'm going to get fried for this one. Kind of reminds me of a guy that played for the Flyers. Now, people could take their shots at me.
Hold on. What era of the Flyers? Because before
I'm gonna
try and figure this out before you say this. Go ahead.
90s. The guy had all the talent in the world.
You're not talking about Eric Lindros right now, are you?
I damn right I am.
Eric Lindros was a god on the ice. Wait a minute.
He was a guy on the ice. He just couldn't keep his eyes up, and he got himself killed.
Darius Kasparaitis.
Darius keep his eyes up. Here he is.
The guy had all the talent.
Keep your eyes up. Keep your eyes up.
He had all the talent in the world. It was a one-dimensional line, but he didn't have the players around. Sean
Agreed.
Pody, Joel Otto old. Paul Kobe was old. Dale Howard, Chuck. Guys were old.
By the time the Legion of Doom came out,
that was
it was after a few concussions. He lost the step. When he came out, he was a freight train. He was the next. He was the next coming of Wayne Gretzky. All you guys remember that. Mm-hmm. You remember, and you remember getting him. We felt instantly like we were Stanley Cup contenders, regardless of who was around them.
Yep.
Yeah, but
I
would have given up Peter Forsberg in that deal.
Well, we ended up getting him back anyway. We ended up, but he was cooked at that point. The Colorado Avalanche took everything out of him and then shipped him back to us. But that's hindsight's 2020. Lindros was what he was. I mean, going back and looking at it, did Peter Forsberg benefit from the people they put around him in Colorado? I think so.
Maybe.
Among many others.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, he had one of the greatest goalies of all time in net.
Yeah.
That always helps.
Now to compare Joel Embiid to Eric Lindros, Now I'll go harder at Allen than I will at you. But I do see where you're drawing similar comparisons because of Embiid's size and his reputation preceded him. Eric Lindros, the vibe was just different because in Lindros you knew what this guy was from his junior hockey days and stuff like that. Whereas Joel Embiid, even though 1 year on Kansas before he became eligible for the NBA, you still didn't know what you had in the guy. All of the talent in the world, which he did utilize, he's a flopper. He's a flopper.
He didn't.
Yeah, but to me, he don't have the talent around him. I mean, Jimmy Butler was like the X factor.
Jimmy Butler was probably the best guy he had around him.
Agreed.
Then they had that schmo. I don't even want to say his name. That can't
Ben Simmons.
Can't take a damn shot at the basket when you're underneath of it. No, you got to pass it out and cost us the game. You're a bum. You're always going to be a bum.
Simmons.
But
it's bad. It's bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Similarity compared to Lindros.
Yeah.
The guy don't have the talent around. I mean, come on, Paul George.
All right. So in that regard,
my biggest problem with Joel Embiid is that you're 7 foot tall. You're 250 pounds.
7'2".
Own 7'2". On my bad.
He's 7'2", 290, 280, 290.
Oh, there you go. 7'2", 290. You should own the paint. What is your big ass doing? Shooting 3 fucking pointers and not following your goddamn shot.
And he runs like a gazelle.
Hell, he does. He runs like a fucking wet mop.
Have we struck a chord out?
Oh, dude. He has so much.
You're foaming at the mouth right now,
dude. He had so much potential, and he just didn't do it. He didn't work it. He didn't like. To me, I just watched him kind of just melt into this injury prone, just whatever guy.
I agree, but to me, as I said, the guy just don't. When he had
I believe Eric Lindros had more players around him, not at the start, but they actually did start filling in with Mark Recchi, John LeClaire, Rod Brindamore. But they just couldn't find the right combination of guys. I mean, we did go to the Stanley Cup in '99. Well, no, that wasn't '99. That was what, '93? 98? Was it 98? 99? Against Detroit? It was 97. It was 97 we went to the Stanley Cup.
There you go. Okay. Yeah.
And that team, literally, there was an interview with, I believe it was Sean Podine, that said Sean Podine knew going into that He knew going into that they were going to lose that series. And they got swept. And it broke my heart. Steve Yzerman, Sergei Fedorov, like I hated.
Yeah.
I despised.
Yep.
Yeah, I despised Detroit. I hated them. But it was pure jealousy because their team was just Steve Yzerman.
Yeah, they were that good. Yep.
I hated it. But Joel Embiid has given you now that he hasn't brought the final product, but he has.
Can't get out of the second round, bro.
He's had an MVP season. I do believe Fuge is right where a lot of it has to do with they have not picked the right combination of players around him. They almost cracked the code with Jimmy Butler, but then let him walk the next year.
Well, here's
what about Tyrese Maxey? Tyrese Maxey is one hell of
I love watching that
player. Kid. He's one hell of a basketball player. Joel Embiid cannot stay healthy. Okay, he just can't. He can't. He does not take care of himself. Okay, you're paying millions of dollars to play a game. You're 7'2", 290. You should not be out there shooting threes. Okay, get your ass in the paint, rebound, and go back up. You should be making a killing on the line. He should be making a killing, standing there just shooting free throws after getting a rebound, going back up and getting fouled. He should be making a killing on the line.
And I remember that
plays almost zero time in the paint.
I remember this show 4, 5, 6 years ago or what have you. No, never thinking. I mean, initially defending Ben Simmons and then watching it just crumble. And then defending Joel Embiid to a fault and watching it crumble down to where it is now. And then they bring in Paul George this year. Like that's like putting a Band-Aid on a loss of a limb.
Yes.
Or like you get your leg cut off and you put a Band-Aid over it. It was horrible.
Like an infected Band-Aid too. Like Paul George.
Like you found like you found a dirty Rugrats Band-Aid on the street and you picked it up, wiped it off, and put it on your leg.
Yeah, it was horrible. He was horrible. He did nothing that we thought he was going to do. There was rumors that they were trying to get gosh darn it.
Did you really just say gosh darn
Jimmy Butler? There was rumors they were trying to like move around and try to get Jimmy Butler back, and then that just like fizzled out. Had they got him back, it could have been.
You know why he left? Different. You know why he left, right? He said it's Ben Simmons or me.
Yeah, and they chose Ben.
And they chose
which
Ben.
Was idiotic.
All right, go ahead.
Tobias Harris.
You're right.
Tobias Harris.
You're absolutely right. I was wrong on that one. It was. He said it's Tobias Harris or me, and they had so much money into him.
They took Tobias Harris over. Oh my god. Okay. All right. So that just even more reason why the Sixers organization is just a joke.
It really is. And now you got to think, what can you do with Embiid? If are you going to move him? Are you stuck with him? Because they gave him that extension.
Yeah.
Who's going to take him now?
Right.
Yeah, they got to pay him.
Damaged goods.
Yep, they got to pay him. I mean, I think he's. I don't know. So it's his knee, right? And all the talk that I've heard about the knee and his injury, there's really nothing they can actually do for it. It's just kind of like you just got to either play through it or you're done. Like at this point, like there's not too much they can do for whatever the patella tendon or whatever the hell. If I'm, you'd have to Google search me on that one, but his injury is
look it up on the Google face.
Yeah. His injury is either you get it, you get it back or you don't. Like it's one of them things. And he's like you said, 7'2", 290, and he's
should be a god. He should be a god out there, and he's not. Let's get back real quick to what you were saying about the difference between the NBA today and the NBA 25 years ago, 30 years ago. The product itself is just so watered down. One of the things we were talking about, load management kills it.
Yes.
But can you imagine somebody on the coaching staff of the Chicago Bulls coming to Michael Jordan and being like, going to take the night off? He would literally be like, get the fuck out of my face right now.
You know what Michael would have done? He would have lit up his cigar and been like, blew it in his face and been like, I'll see you at halftime. I'll see you at halftime. I'll come in and crush it.
Do not strike a chord.
No, dude, they were different animals.
Why?
When we were growing up, they were.
Wait, hold on, Food. I got to hear what Food's is going to say here.
Oh, my bad.
You really want me to answer this question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
First of all, you got expansion, which ruins sports.
Waters it down.
Free agency. I mean, not for nothing. You could go to this team, have 3 guys, win a title. Go to this team, win a title. Like, come on. I don't want to hear about all this effing flipping bullshit because, excuse my lag, it's a disgrace. I mean, I don't care. The 80s and 90s were the best years of the NBA. The Bulls, the Knicks, the Barkley, Malone, Stockton. Like, come on. Not even close. And I love
when I love when people
Charles Oakley, Lambeer, Barkley, Rick Mahorn. When they would throw Dave the Admiral. These guys would throw down. Especially playoff basketball was physical. How many years?
Admiral. David Robinson.
Jordan get beat up in the paint against the Pistons.
The Pistons. Yeah, those bad boy Piston teams.
Of course.
Dude. The NBA was like back when we were watching it.
Yeah.
You went to the net, you expected to get hit.
Of course.
Whacked, smacked, whatever. And you didn't expect it to get called. And when they did call it, you were like, oh shit.
But guys,
it was a totally different era of basketball.
That's when they went at it. They weren't playing patty cake like they are today.
No. And I remember being younger and you hearing that, and you just know, you're in for Christmas Day. Nowadays, Christmas Day basketball is trash. Christmas Day basketball back in the day. Oh my God.
Don't even watch it, bro. Don't even put it on.
Bulls Magic back when Shaq was young and a rookie. Like you get like Bulls Magic, you get Lakers Celtics.
Yeah.
I don't
back in the day.
Yes, if the Sixers were fortunate enough to make it on, they'd play like the Knicks, or the Bulls would play the Knicks, and it was just watching those games. I was always that guy, like I'm watching my team first. But back in those days, the product was so good. And you knew everybody. You knew every player. And you didn't know every player like kids do nowadays because they play 2K. That's how kids nowadays know player. I knew players because I bought football cards, because I watched football, because I watched basketball. I knew the players were because I had a vested interest in the games because they kept me interested in the games. Nowadays, it's like we live in an ADHD society, and I was diagnosed with ADHD at age 4. Trust me, I know. We live in a what have you done for me now? I want it. Go ahead, Fuj.
Nah, back then, I mean, hell, it was like religion. You ate like how, even though we still love sports today, you ate, drank, and slept all these sports.
Absolutely.
You knew every player on every team. You knew the damn baseball lineup.
Yep.
The old 22. On the Eagles, the Sixers starting 5, the Flyers starting 5. Who was in that?
Being a kid and throwing on 610 WIP on a transistor radio under my pillow, so my parents didn't hear me listening to the Phillies game or the Sixers game when I was supposed to be in bed, or with my rabbit ears putting on channel 17 down in Philly so that I could watch the end of the Flyers game and keep it real low so that I didn't get in trouble because I was supposed to be in bed. Like that's the kids nowadays, you just pull it up on your phone. You didn't have to wait. You didn't have blackout, Yeah, they don't know anything about
how many Eagles
blackout.
games did we miss because they were blacked out?
Right.
How many Eagles games did we not see because we didn't sell enough tickets?
The kids from our era knew stats because they studied them, not because they pulled their phone out and looked it up. Right.
In the box score.
Yes.
I'll give you one better. Sitting out in the summer in South Philly, when all the neighbors would be out there congregating, somebody would have a transistor radio on.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
We didn't have cable. You didn't have
right.
Yeah. Well, I think the west side of Broad
exactly.
Broad Street had
so growing up in South Philly, I grew up down. It starts at 2nd Street, but the numbers go up to in South Philly, they go up to 34th Street. And they end at 34th Street. Well, Broad Street, even though it's not the middle line, even though it's not the cut line, Broad Street was your halfway mark. And for people who don't know out there what Prism was, it was you had to get it through your cable provider, but everybody had the same cable provider. But the west side, you could get it on the west side, on my side of Broad Street. So all the guys from the other side of Broad would come into our neighborhoods and other neighborhoods before us in order to see and watch Flyers games and Sixers games that they couldn't see. And the people don't have that nowadays. You can literally, in your pocket, you can have everything that you want, any game that you want to watch, anything. Alan, are you still there? Did you disappear?
I'm still here. My bad.
Yeah, but
what are you being inappropriate over there? You had to disappear.
No, I'm sorry. I did.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down. Here I'm good. Anyway, but yeah, so growing up and like you said, Fuge, a prime example. You walk out on a summer night, neighbors are sitting around, somebody had a radio out there. I remember distinctly as a kid and growing up in my neighborhood, there was family members every other block, around the corner, 2 blocks away, 3 blocks up, 1 block over. My grandparents lived 2 blocks up and 1 block over from us. My dad's mom and dad. My mom's parents lived right around the corner, a half a block away.
Right.
And I would go over to my grandmom and grandpop Kelly's house any day during the summer. If the Phillies were on, they were on in my grandparents' house. They would be on in the background as white noise. But Pop would have them on the TV, and I would remember coming over, and my grandma would make me a sandwich. I'd sit there and I'd talk with my grandparents, and I'd watch some of the Phillies game. It was just that. It's not like that anymore. I'm not saying it's completely gone, but it was, that's what you did. You watched Phillies baseball. Mm-hmm. Your family watched Phillies baseball. When you would talk to your aunts or your uncles or your grandparents, it's, you see Smitty strike out? What the hell's that about? It just and go ahead.
I was going to say, like South Philly, like I said, I was in my grandparents' house, and some of the elderly neighbors would be out too, and somebody would have a transistor radio and have the Phillies game on the east side of Broad Street.
On the east side of Broad Street, yes, that would be from 13th to 2nd.
Yeah, I know.
Now I lived down 2nd Street for a while. So I'm from 30th and 10th. I was at 2nd, and I was on a little street called Emily Street. It's in between Snyder and McKean.
Yeah,
I remember that spot.
Right. Yeah, I think you been over to that house once or twice with me.
Yep.
And I used to DJ at McKenna's Pubs right there at 2nd and Snyder.
Yeah, McDaniel's is there right on the
McDaniel's and McKenna's, yeah. My front door was 70 footsteps to McKenna's back door. I would work at FedEx, and then I'd come home on a Friday night. I'd DJ Friday night, Saturday night, and it was a good time down there. But I was born and raised.
Your mic went off.
And then stumble 70 feet home. Turn it on.
Your mic. Can't hear you.
My bad.
There you go, handsome. There you go. You're back.
So I would not stumble 70 feet home. I would pass that to the Cherokee Club, which was an after-hours bar down 2nd Street, usually until the sun came up.
There you go.
I was a bit of a wild guy back in the day. Me and Alan may have shut down a bar or two in our day together for sure.
Yeah. That's story time for later.
Ooh, that's a different show. That's like the kids. It's time to go to bed.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But down 30th Street, where I grew up at in South Philly, on the other end, on the west end of South Philly, the 30th and Tasker, everything was about corners. 3TO, 2M6, Hollywood and Morton was H-Dub, 1J6 was 16th and Jackson, 10th in Oregon. It was all corners. Well, I hung out down 30th Street. 3TO was it called it, and the guys from 2nd Street will call the girls from 30th Street 3 teeth only. So it was when I first moved down south. I don't even know. Like, okay, it's like I had to like show prep. That's out of here. So
screw it.
I remember when I first moved.
Joe B's a bum.
Thinking, send it. I remember moving, down 2nd Street, and they're like, and I'd start to meet people. Oh, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from 30th Street. They're like, Dirty 30. I'm like, yeah, whatever, 30. Because I was also in the Mummers Parade for 20 years. So
yes, you were.
I lived down 2nd Street for a long time. You know what? Maybe one of these shows coming up, I'll pull up myself and some of my costumes. I got some folks up here in St. Clair that have been asking to see me in my sequins and feathers. That's LGBTQ.
Maybe I can hook you up with my buddy Chip. My buddy Chip's got his own little mummer brigade. He goes down.
Which one?
Maybe we can get into there.
Which one?
What's the name of it? Do you know the name of it?
Oh man, I do not. But I know he paints his shoes gold.
Yeah, that's a Mummers thing. When you're in the fancy brigades, wow. So we're just all over the place today.
Yeah, we're all over.
It's nice sometimes. It's the dog days. Like we're getting into the dog days of sports.
Yeah.
But
conversations.
Growing up in South Philly, I think I must go ahead.
I was going to say hung down 30th Street Station.
No, not 30th Street Station.
I know he said 30th Street.
No, growing up in South Philly, the Mummers were.
Oh yeah, I know.
You had, I don't care who you were. If you weren't in it, your father was, your uncle was, your grandfather was.
Right.
And a lot of folks up here have no clue at all what the Mummers Parade is. And some people will be like, wait, is that thing on New Year's Day where everybody dances around like idiots? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, so you've
been drinking since 2 a.m. Are
you kidding me? You ring in the new year, you don't go to bed.
There you go.
Yeah. Timmy comes to town, and it's just you're rocking and rolling. You know what I mean?
You're fresh. You're wide awake. Let's go.
So it's you have to experience it. I highly recommend, if you haven't gone, don't go to Broad Street. Don't go to Broad Street. Go to 2nd Street after the parade. If you want to experience the full experience of the Mummers Parade, do not go watch it on Broad Street. It is watered down. Down 2nd Street, it's the quarters are tight. The dancers, the routines come alive. So I highly recommend, if you're going to go. See, I can't. There's no way I could pull my leg up over my head to show you guys my tattoo. But I was in Golden Crown Fancy Brigade for 20 years, and I was the first member. If anybody from my former Mummers Club is watching this, who all have tattoos, I was the first Golden Crown member to get the tattoo on my leg. So
I remember you showing up to work with it.
I remember.
Look what I did.
I was ossified. I fell asleep. It was an open wound and a sheet laid on my leg. And when I woke up, I overslept. So now I'm trying to run around, and I went to rip the sheet off me to jump out of bed, and it ripped 5 layers of skin off.
Oh, yeah, that's no good.
Yeah. So it was I was also in a little event down there called Boozapalooza.
Okay.
Which is the Saturn Aliens Mummers Club every year through this thing called Boozapalooza, where it was 7 guys on a quarter keg to see who could drink it the fastest.
Wow.
I won that event 3 out of 11 years.
By yourself?
I was not by myself. I mean, I'm good, but I'm not that good. No,
you and me could probably just do it.
I had some powerhouse teams in Boozapalooza, but the thing was, they would tape you in a box that was like 5 foot by 5 foot, and you couldn't exit it. If you left, if you had to stand there, and if you left the square, you're out. If you threw up, you're out. So it was, people are trying to
square.
No, I mean, I guess I think there was a way you could call timeout, but they would follow you in the bathroom to see if you puke. I can't remember.
Okay, all right.
Believe it or not, the rules are a little fuzzy, probably because of the competition in and of itself. Look, I know we went off the rails this week, but whatever. Hey. I remember guys are trying to fill up cups, and I'm grabbing pitchers, and I'm hammering down pitchers at a time while guys are drinking cups at a time. So yeah, Boozapalooza was another mummers tradition that probably took 10 to 15 years off of my life.
Was that like an inverted keg, where they would hold you upside down?
It wasn't a keg stand. It was a half keg's the big keg. You get 300 and some cups out of it.
Yeah.
This was a quarter keg. So a quarter keg is basically half the size of a half, obviously.
Yeah.
And you get 150 cups out of it. So you got 7 guys. And I think the one year we broke the record, we drank a quarter keg, 7 guys, 9 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
9 minutes and change. Alan has
you put me on that team, it's 8.5. We break that record.
Easy. See, everybody all right, so this is my lush side that it's like bragging about being the smartest person in summer school, all right? And I get that. But I realize it's a Pattison Ave Phanatics Show, but sometimes these conversations are even more fun.
Hey, man.
I remember that I was at the height of my slobdom at that point. And everybody wanted to be on my team. Literally, are you making a team this year? Are you making a team this year?
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do it again. I put my liver on notice a few months back that it's going to be another rough one. But just imagine you can't do anything. You're not eating. You're not peeing. You're not doing anything. You're just standing in a square with 6 other sweaty, smelly, stinky guys pounding as fast as you can. And these kegs aren't cold; they're warm. So you're getting out of a pitcher, you're getting that much beer and that much foam. So think about it. You're drinking foam. It was, I don't know how many years of my life I took off partying when I was younger. But in hindsight, I don't think I'd change any of it. I really don't.
No regrets.
No, not one.
Not one. Not even a single letter.
Well, look, fellas. The time just flew tonight. I realize it was completely off the rails, but this time of year,
this is a good time.
This time of year, chewing the fat like this, I would love to start doing a nostalgic show, and then each week we come in, especially in it could be Pattison Ave Phanatics, but each week we come in with, I know you guys are doing the old school sports show, but I would like to do a nostalgic show where you talk about growing up, and because the guys that grew up here up in Schuylkill County had their own way of they did the bonfires in the woods, and they called them bush parties. And that wasn't me. I drank 40s and quarts in the park when I was a kid, but bush party sounds cool as shit to me. You know what I mean? You're 16, you're out there,
keg of beer, let's go. Yeah,
you're out there. So it doesn't matter where you're from. You can look back on nostalgic, and it harkens back to some memories that other people think. But
correct. Warm mongooses in the woods. Woo, man,
dude, I'll tell
tear you up, brother. Tear you up.
I have like 10 stories I want to say right now, but I got to save them for another day. But look,
absolutely,
that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for everybody for letting us kind of go off the rails on this one. We'll reel it back in for next week. But for Mike Fuji, for Alan Anchicavature, Will Lynn, who could not be on tonight, I'm Tom Kelly. This is Pattison Ave Phanatics Show. We're out of here.
Fuji's top stories to make your night with Alan, stay sharp as a knife.